prominent Democratic pollster and the president of Lester and Associates, a Washington, D.C. political polling firm. He is known for his work analyzing the African American vote and its impact on elections. On January 1st, 1863, when Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, the state of Texas ignored the proclamation and kept African Americans in a state of chattel slavery until General Granger delivered the order in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. But it would be the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, the Reconstruction Amendments of the United States Constitution, that would be responsible ultimately for guaranteeing the freedom of the newly freed people. More specifically, today we turn our attention to the 15th Amendment, an amendment that we guaranteed African American men, to the exclusion of Black women, the right to vote. Ron Lester has new data on why African men are voting, are not voting, who they're voting for, why they are voting, and why many of them are sitting out these elections. This, too, is part of our ongoing story on June 19th, 2025. We simply cannot ignore the continuation of our struggle. From the inception of the Republic to the present, the Reconstruction Amendments, Amendments number 13, that one ends slavery. We talk about that one all the time. We talk about the Emancipation Proclamation all the time. We talked about the shameful event of the Texans keeping us in slavery, Juneteenth, all the time. We talk about the 14th Amendment and its implications for citizenship rights today, specifically for our brown brothers and sisters, but it was African Americans who added that amendment to the Constitution coming out of the condition of slavery. But we rarely talk about the 15th Amendment that guaranteed Black men, to the exclusion of Black women, the right to vote. And yet today, our brothers are not taking that hard-fought gain as seriously as they should. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, our very special guest will be Ron Lester, who will offer us tremendous insights on what Black men are thinking, why they're voting, and why they're not. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews. Great place with amazing food. The Sunday Champagne Brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe. Over the years, Lionel has catered most major Black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your Black. So head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is none other than Ron Lester. He is the Dean of African American pollsters in the United States. Just no one for as many decades has been polling the African American community longer, greater, or more in-depthly than Ron Lester. Ron, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Glad to be here. My pleasure.
Ron, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution is 154 years old. It was ratified on February 3rd, 1870. This amendment granted African American men the right to vote. I understand the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Selma to Montgomery campaign and all that made it possible. Ron, what is your data sharing with us and telling us right now about what is on the mind of Black men when it comes to voting?
Okay. Well, in the presidential election of 2024, we saw a huge dip and drop in the turnout of Black men. We also saw that 17% voted for the Republican candidate, which is the highest in many, many years, probably going back to President Eisenhower, when African Americans at that point routinely voted for Republicans. But since Eisenhower, starting with Kennedy, the Black vote has disproportionately gone to the Democrats. Now, 17% is not a major amount, and that also means Kamala Harris got 83%. But in close elections, it can often be the difference. And it is more. Trump got about 6% of the votes of Black women. So you see, statistically, 3 times as many Black men voted for Trump as women. So that's what we would call statistically significant. Something is really happening there.
What is your data sharing with you that is statistically significant, where there's something really, really happening there? What does that mean?
Okay, so what is happening in America in terms of macroeconomic factors is disproportionately affecting Black men, probably worse than any other group. If you take a look at incarceration, Blacks represent 13% of the population, yet 37% are Blacks represent 37% of the incarcerated population. That's 300% greater. If you take a look at the leading cause of death among Black men, it's under 34 years old, it's homicide. For every other group, it's heart disease or cancer, but not Black men. Black men is homicide. Black men are the victims of poor education to a greater extent than most other groups. If you take a look at these big cities like Philadelphia and Chicago, and you see that 75% of the students graduate, well, that means 25% don't. Who are they? They are largely Black men. Now, in an increasingly technological economy, you need education. You at least need a high school education or a GED. So to be out there in these streets without a high school degree is very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous because there aren't any options. There aren't many legitimate options. There are a few, but they're not many. But a lot of these young guys, they have families, they have kids, they have significant others. So they're in a bad situation. And then a lot of jobs that younger Black men have historically worked when, during the Great Migration in the 1940s, when they came north, when our parents and grandparents came north, a lot of those jobs no longer exist. You take Detroit, for example, on the auto lines, and those were some really good jobs. Hundreds of thousands of Black men, and in some cases women, came to Detroit. And they worked those jobs and they bought houses and they sent their kids to college. A lot of those jobs no longer exist due to AI, due to robotics, or they've gone to Thailand or Singapore or even Canada, where the wage rates are less. So the job market is not very kind to unskilled people in general, and particularly Black men. I'll give you another example. In most neighborhoods, there are supermarkets. And I know when I grew up, that was a pretty good job. To get a job at a supermarket as a cashier, you could join a union, the United Food and Commercial Workers, get union benefits, be a part of the credit union. Next thing you know, you bought a house, you had a car. Well, those jobs at supermarkets have largely been replaced by robotics and by AI. So the jobs for unskilled workers have pretty much gone by the wayside. So there are a lot of Black men who are out there who are really in trouble economically. They can't earn a living. They don't have the education and the requisite skills to compete in the job market yet. They have kids, they have families, they have significant others. So what has happened is Trump's whole thing is to play to those grievances, that the reason things are like that is because of those Democrats. It's because of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. And while the majority of Black men voted for Harris, 17% bought into that and voted for Trump. And as I said earlier, in a close election that's decided by 1% or 2%, and in the top 6 swing states, the closest election was in Georgia, and that was about 1% between Harris and between Biden, Trump. And then all 6 of those states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, I think there's one more, but those are 5 I just named off.
Arizona?
Arizona could be considered a swing state. Yeah, definitely. But the main ones are Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And in those 3 states, the election was decided by less than 1%. Several million people voted, and the difference between between Harris and Trump was less than 100,000 votes. In Georgia,
right. Let me dig. Let me dig in for a second here. We got to peel some of this onion back. That's just the way it smells to me. So we have the midterms coming up. We have another presidential election coming up in 2028. What is it in this legal environment that a candidate, Democrat, can offer Black men that would persuade them to consider walking down the same road we've been walking down since the Kennedys? I mean, you laid out a plethora of problems that if I were a woman, I wouldn't date a brother. I mean, wow. I mean, the category of everything that is wrong just kind of ends up at the doorstep of a brother man. So now, if someone's running for president of the United States, to get past a court that is obviously chilled to the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the historic movement to employ our people and give us a shot, and that doesn't even include all of us. Diversity is a huge term that doesn't single out or provide hope and opportunity for African American men. What is it that American politics on June 19, 2025 can offer a brother that says, hey, I'm voting for you, that is believable, that can bring about a substantive change in just about every category that you mentioned? I can't imagine what that would be.
Okay, well, let me clear something up real quick. And that is, I wasn't talking about all Black men under 35. We're talking about maybe 35% fall into that category.
But you're saying that category, there's just enough of them. There's enough of them to move an election.
Yes, definitely. There's no question about it, because so 17% voted for Trump, but a number even larger than that didn't even vote, where under the 2 Obama elections, the Hillary election and the Biden election, you had turnout among younger Black men in the high 50s. So this is a major drop here. But you ask a very good question. What can the parties offer? And we have a senator from Delaware named Lisa Rochester, who was the labor commissioner in Delaware for 8 years before she was elected to Congress. I believe she served 3 terms in Congress, and she has a bill that she introduced in the House before she came over to the Senate. She even had 10 Republicans as co-sponsors. The House leadership never decided to bring it to the floor for a vote. But essentially what this bill would do is it would increase the budget of junior colleges by about 300% to include workforce development and training. So the jobs that are in demand out there nowadays, like HVAC, folks that install the Wi-Fi, video cameras, they don't have enough people to fill those jobs. And there are a lot of people out here unemployed. We have a lot of jobs over here that are unfilled. So you have to find a way to train those brothers to do these existing jobs, which, by the way, pay pretty well. HVAC mechanic starts out at $65,000 a year. So her plan was to fund and create more programming that would also include some remedial training, because one of the problems we talked about earlier is a lot of these brothers did not graduate from school. So they have some difficulties and challenges in reading and writing, which you need for a job in the modern economy. So her program and her funding to the junior colleges around the country would also include a remedial education component and job training. And as I said, the bill was so popular, she had 10 Republican sponsors, but the House leadership did not bring it to the floor.
Well, Ron, let me, I stood for 9 elections myself and run 100 campaigns across the country myself, and many campaigns I worked with you. Ron, okay, all right. So increase community college education, good paying jobs as a result of continuing education. But then there's also, for this very small percentage of people, a way to make a quick buck that has nothing to do with learning how to read or learning how to write. This idea, which sounds great. I can imagine that it would pick up some Republican sponsorship and probably some Democratic sponsorship, but it just seems like there's an easier life out there that many young people may be taking advantage of, whether it's, well, whatever that easy life is, however tragic that easy life is, that if I heard a Democrat say they wanted to support more community college education, they believe that, Black men really, really need it. It sounds so much like more of the same. And Donald Trump tends to speak to Black people and young Black people through celebrity. So how does a Democrat compete with that message?
Well, there are some younger brothers who would respond to this, who are really ready to work, and they know they need more job training. So surveys have indicated there is an audience, there is a market that would participate in this kind of program. But, I think your point is quite valid. A lot of these same brothers who didn't graduate from high school, who might have a couple of kids and a woman who they live with, who's their child's parent, on their case to bring some money in, they will go out and get some money, and they will do it the wrong way. And that's one of the reasons why the prison population is so high. So my best recommendation here is the way to avoid that situation is by providing more equitable education in the first place. That a good education from elementary school on up should be a constitutional right. It should just not be available in places like Winnetka, but not in Chicago. And until this country comes to that realization, that education needs to be more equitable, because nowadays there was a time in my grandfather's time when he came up from the South. He didn't have a college education, but he did very well. He ended up buying a house. He always seemed like he had a new car. He would go to Brooklyn Dodger games in New York. He lived a good life. He sent some of his kids to private school. They all went to college, and he didn't have an education, but he found a way to get jobs with his hands. He was a carpenter. He could wield a hammer, etc. The problem is nowadays, many of those jobs don't exist because of automation and robotics. They're declining. So you need to have that education. You have to be able to read and write and work a computer to get most any job nowadays. So that cases back to the point that public education has got to improve. If it doesn't, we're going to really have some very negative implications that everybody will be victim of. Just look at the cost. Yeah.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is the Dean of African American Pollsters in the United States. We are trying to get to the root of why Black men don't vote, why they're sitting it out, what it's going to take to engage them that is believable. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, this is Juneteenth, and we are discussing the 15th Amendment and the Black male vote.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former President Barack Obama says the U.S. is dangerously close to autocracy. Speaking in Connecticut, he warned against normalizing one-person rule and called the current climate inconsistent with democracy.
We start drifting into something that is not consistent with American democracy.
Still, he said he remains hopeful and urged Americans to stay alert and engaged. Organizers of the No Kings protest planned another nationwide demonstration on July 17th, honoring Black civil rights icon John Lewis. Millions joined Saturday's protest against Trump's military parade, which organizers call one of the largest in U.S. history. And the New York City Council is demanding updates on efforts to reduce school segregation. 6 years after passing a diversity law, officials pressed the Education Department on progress, after-school programs, and student internet access. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Music Festival by Events.com is happening June 20th through 22nd, featuring Walker Hayes, Cody Jinks, Alabama, Russell Dickerson, Midland, Big and Rich, and more. Get 3-day or single-day tickets now at TemeculaValleyFestival.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
We now know that Dodgers owner Mark Walter has no limits on his bank account. Walter paid $10 billion to buy the Lakers, the highest sales price in history for a U.S. sports franchise. The purchase ends a remarkable 46-year era for the Buss family. Jerry Buss bought the Lakers in 1979 for $67.5 million. The Lakers won 11 NBA championships for the Buss family. This year's NBA championship could be decided tonight. It's Game 6 of the NBA Finals in Indianapolis. With a 3-2 lead, the Oklahoma City Thunder can claim their first NBA title with a win over the Indiana Pacers. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Angels beat the Yankees again in New York. They hung on for a 3-2 win. They can sweep the 4-game series with a win today in New York. The Dodgers got a game-winning homer from Will Smith in the bottom of the ninth to beat San Diego 4-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
May 6th was World Asthma Day, and it's a critical time to raise awareness about your asthma. Did you know that Black Americans are approximately 5 times more likely than white Americans to visit the emergency department due to their asthma? Managing your asthma is possible with regular checkups, avoiding known triggers, using prescribed medications correctly, and creating an asthma action plan with your healthcare professional. An action plan is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medications to take to help control your asthma when you're having a hard time breathing or having an asthma attack. Stay aware, have a plan because your health matters. For more tips and resources on managing your asthma, visit luma-edu.com. luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on! On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Took the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. KBLA Talk 1580's Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium will air tonight on C-SPAN, C-SPAN Now, and stream live on cspan.org Thursday, June 19th, 2025, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and 7 p.m. Central Time. Happy Juneteenth. We had an amazing symposium yesterday. Mayor Karen Bass was there. Dr. Cornell West was there. Ben Jealous was there. Congresswoman from this area was there. Justin Pearson was there, and on and on and on. We had a 2+ hour conversation about health, about the climate, about the Negro's role, about Juneteenth, and all things under the sun. But in this very special hour, my very special guest is Ron Lester. Hey, Ron.
How's it going there?
Man, it's wonderful out here in Los Angeles. Ron, I want to dive right back into the questions that we were having about Black men on Juneteenth and their voting preferences. Look at what we're up against. Artificial intelligence. An environment where to hire Black people, let alone Black men, is being challenged at the federal court level. It's being challenged voluntarily by the private sector. The President of the United States has stoked the fears of almost every African American who gets a job anywhere. They're confronted with this idea that there's some kind of DEI hire. And it appears to me that one of the historical roles of the federal government, hence I'm getting at a federal program here, to hire the newly freed slaves, the federal government came up with programs because states wouldn't do it, the private sectors wouldn't do it. They created jobs programs for necessary things that needed to happen in the nation that large pools of unemployed people could actually fulfill. We talk about Donald Trump coming in, removing federal workers, and on a scale that we've not seen maybe since we just haven't seen it ever before. It's been expanding ever since the Civil War. We've never seen anything like this. But when I think about FEMA and wildfires and neighborhoods and streets and environmental remediation, I mean, I'm talking $60 and $70 an hour jobs for massive categories of unemployed people, and a jobs training program run by the federal government, with the federal government of the United States being the primary source of employment on a scale that we have not seen, given the education levels that your surveys over many decades have confirmed. Your thoughts about a new job training program that is constitutional, that meets a vital federal need and a particular interests of the federal government and of states governments, could be funded by the American taxpayers so that the so-called derelicts of destitution do not find themselves wandering, trying to provide for their families.
That's a good point. But instead of moving towards a more comprehensive educational policy that would address some of the gaps, in other words, that 25% that does not graduate from high schools in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, etc., they do something. And a lot of times it's not something good. So everybody pays. And their families pay too. I mean, those are children that often do not see their fathers and do not benefit from having a father in the house, etc. So there are all kinds of negative consequences to that. But instead of the government moving as the government was trying to do under Biden and Lisa Rochester with this program that would beef up the junior colleges and provide the education now that they should have gotten then, this government now has eliminated the Department of Education. They're moving in the opposite direction. They clearly understand how important education is, and that's why they are eliminating the Department of Education, which means that there's less dollars to fund the state programs, because that's how the system works. The federal Department of Education funds states. That money goes to the schools to buy new computers, to buy other learning aids, etc. But right now, there is no Department of Education. So the federal government under Trump is moving in a direction that may even be worse. I mean, we think things are bad now. The unemployment rate among blacks is twice as high as it is among whites. But things could get worse.
It seems to me, Ron, once again, that if Gavin Newsom or J.B. Pritzker or Gretchen Whitmer or Josh Shapiro were the Democratic nominee tomorrow, we're talking 2027, 2028, it seems to me that even if they were able to muster support in Congress and the Senate and sign such a piece of legislation, and it were able to survive federal court muster, that's 3 or 4 years away from a deliverable for young men, young women, for all Americans for that matter, but we're talking about on Juneteenth, this particular category of Black male voters, and there are more immediate needs. And I don't want to give and tip my hand to Donald Trump on this, but there are more immediate needs. Some of the programs include, but not limited to, climate disaster relief in the coastal areas. It includes fighting wildfires. It includes in the Midwest, tornado and climate disasters and cleanup efforts. It includes deforestation, and I don't mean that in the sprawling urban area form. I mean in the form that allows for the proper cultivation of the nation's forest systems so that fires don't spread from one mountaintop to the next mountaintop. It just seems to me that there is a role for the federal government during this period for young African American men, for young working class whites who choose not to go back to school, who could, in fact, make significant amounts of money for their families, have a dignified living, and be part of a new federal workforce. Your thoughts about that?
I think that's an excellent point. But there appears to be no will and no resolve in this administration of doing anything that benefits Black folks and working folks. So the idea that you just mentioned about training younger men in deforestation in a place like Los Angeles, that would be definitely very beneficial to go into the forest now and begin treating some of these trees and the landscape, etc., and be more prepared for wildfires, etc. That is something that could be very beneficial to a lot of people. But this administration seems to be going in the opposite direction. And when I say that, I mean cutting programs that benefit Black folks and working class folks. And by the way, so Trump received 17% of the Black male vote. In current polls, he's only receiving about 8%. So it appears he's already lost half of the support that he had. And the reason for that is if you take a look at a lot of the programs that he is eliminating, they're programs that disproportionately benefit Blacks and low-income people.
Ron?
Yeah,
let me come right back. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more with Ron Lester on what Black men are thinking when it comes to voting and what we need to do to offer them something that makes sense. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love. and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Oh, these polymers aren't as flexible as batch K3.
Researcher Laurie is stretched thin.
Did you get the vulcanization analytics from V66? Oh, wait, are these rubber scores from last week?
She needs to hire new lab technicians so she can bounce back into her old self.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our matching platform lets you spend less time searching and more time connecting with candidates. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Ron Lester. I do want to make a small promo for tonight and tomorrow. Tonight, Tavis and Cornel West and Jesse Jackson Jr. and Ben Jealous will all be on C-SPAN for the Climate Justice Conference. The panel was amazing, had a wonderful time. And tomorrow, I have a very special guest. My guest is the creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, none other than Gina Towns, a very close and great friend of mine and my bestie. I must be candid. She's the producer of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. She's going to be sharing with us some insights on what's next on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It was actually her idea that I come to radio. And so she's going to lay out for you what we can expect coming up in the next week as the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show takes on new legs and begins an expansion process. Our very special guest on Friday will be Gina Towns. Ron, let me get back to this conversation and then leave you the last 2 or 3 minutes of our program to close on a word of hope. The question that I raise on this Juneteenth about African-American men and voting. They've had all of this stimulus, all of this data, internet, social media, Facebook, the cultural explosion since 1965, the music, the opinions of less informed people who are now influencers who matter for the quick news cycles. We no longer have Dan Rather. We no longer have Ted Koppel. We're missing the news that we received it when we were growing up. And so much information, so much education is coming from real-time influencers, whether the information is true or it's not true, whether our history is being told or it's not being told. I remember motivating people to register and vote on the basis of African American history and an obligation that we have to our ancestors. In the past, that was enough. But now there's something else going on here. There's a desire for quick fixes to major economic problems that all boil down to, well, if I got a check with the man's name on it, a COVID check, I can actually call that progress, even though it's taxpayer money. Talk to me, Ron. How do we make a solid decision as African American men and vote our economic interests? And what do the parties have to offer? I want to say the Democratic Party, but to chide them, to prod them along, what can either party offer to change our economic conditions that ultimately strengthen our families?
Well, first, we have to start out by understanding, and we need to get more people to understand that the vote is a very, very important thing. It is a treasured thing, and it can help alleviate the unequal conditions that exist in America. We have potentially, with the vote, a lot of power. Let's go back to Reconstruction for a second. After the Civil War and Black men were allowed to vote, they changed the landscape of American politics. They elected 5 members of Congress, and now we're talking about around 1870. They elected about 5 members of Congress, U.S. senators, a governor of Louisiana, who did such good things that it ended up helping to create the Ku Klux Klan and white men with guns who came after them, etc. And then there was a compromise in 1876, and all of that went away. Why did it go away? Because it was achieving results. It was helping to improve the schools. It was helping to create jobs for Black people, etc. So we're in very much history repeats itself. And in a way, we're kind of going through a second Reconstruction. But this time, it's not that we have people, pointing guns at us. Well, maybe in some places we do. But by and large, the lack of participation is self-motivated. It's people, particularly this younger, under 34-year-old segment of Black men, they just do not want to vote. They are very, very alienated from society. We talked about the reasons earlier, their incarceration, health, etc. So they're so alienated, they're not participating, and it ends up being to their own detriment. And I want to make another important point here. So therefore, their families with kids, who's taking care of those kids? It's the women. It's a disproportionate share of responsibility goes on to the women when the men are not stepping up to the plate and exercising their own responsibility. So their alienation has been capitalized on by Donald Trump, who is not doing one thing to help Black men. So and with all of these cuts, because the eligibility criteria for SNAP food stamps is being changed. So if you work, you're no longer going to be able to receive food stamps. The working poor. Medicaid, they're talking about almost $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. That includes the Children's Health Insurance Program. So a lot of these men that didn't vote or didn't vote for Trump, their children's health insurance may be taken away. Job Corps, it's Trump has proposed to eliminate Job Corps entirely. He's already eliminated the Department of Education. So these decisions to not vote or vote for Trump have real implications. And at some point, hopefully the younger men will see that. I think the Democrats need to do a better job of communicating and educating what the stakes are here. We can't put it all on Trump. But things need to change because right now they're not working. And every presidential election, for the last several years, the number of people voting increased. In this one, it decreased. It decreased in places like Pennsylvania by over 100,000 votes, and most of those votes were in Philadelphia. So the decision to not participate has consequences, and they're very negative consequences for the Black community.
Ron Lester, you've been my very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm so honored that you've been here with us on this evening.
My pleasure.
Look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, with our final minute and a half, I want to invite, since I'm in Los Angeles, one of the men behind the scenes on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. He is our engineer, Miles Lowe. Miles, say something to everybody.
Yes. I love working here at the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I appreciate everybody who's been tapping in with us on the YouTube channel, the great guests, Gina Towns, Tavis Smiley, the whole KBLA team. It's been an amazing ride, man. I appreciate having to be a part of the team, and KBLA loves you, man. 4 years. Happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Miles is absolutely the best. He's one of the people behind the scenes when we're all the way on the other side of the country operating the show remotely. Gina, come on, step on over here right quick. We've got about another 30 seconds left. Oh, I got her tomorrow. And so I just want to thank my team, because it's impossible to do all of this by ourselves. And we simply would not be able to do it without, one, the faith that Tavis Smiley and 4 years of KBLA represents for independent Black journalism in the nation, the creativity of Gina Towns, the workhorses, Taz, Scott, Miles, Lowe, Angie, Coleman Scott behind the scenes who make wonderful things happen. Tomorrow, our executive producer is our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and we'll talk about what's coming forward. Until then, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.